For months I've been filming this project from the footpaths and bridges around the site, but a few weeks ago I was invited actually into the construction zone itself. And what surprised me the most was just how different everything feels when you're standing down inside it. Well, this is very quiet today. No fishermen, no one around. Welcome to another update from Staveley. What is it today? It's towards the ends of May. Don't let the sun shine in the sky fool you. It feels more like February than May. I suppose it's two videos in one today, because we're going to have a look what's going off today, what the latest is as we visit today, and we'll also rewind a few weeks and show you a few clips from inside the construction zones. And as always, we've got a little bit of a bonus on the end of this video where we'll have a look at something unrelated to the restoration, but something I think is quite an interesting subject. It looks like the Canal Trust volunteers, the work party, are hard at work today as well. It's volunteers just watering all the plants, getting enough help from the weather this week. Exciting to get into the actual construction site. I've been pointing the camera in from the outside all these months, but now I'm getting a perspective from the ground. And it's not just the lock to show you today. I've also got what I think is a really interesting new thing to show you, the newest piece of canal cutting on the Chesterfield Canal system. We'll start at the western end of the current works, where the rebuilt canal will pass between these former railway bridge abutments. As previously reported, due to the height of the rebuilt canal being lower, the canal will be passing between the blue engineering brick abutments in a concrete trough. The towpath will be on the right hand side as we look down the channel. The towpath will be narrower through here, so the belief is that the current diversion that the footpath now takes will remain in place for an easier passage for cyclists heading up to the Transpennine Trail. And of course that's on this old railway line. I don't think I've ever been so close to these bridge abutments.
Because this will only technically be wide enough for one boat by the time it's all narrower, so if boats are waiting to go into the lock, they'll wait back down there.
And I always comment, don't I, how much it changes here. I mean, I've been away for 2 weeks on holiday. This is my first time back since I came that day, and I was stood just down there, and look, there's a lot more earth being moved. Looks like they've excavated some of the earth behind the retaining wall as well, behind the abutment, should I say. And then there's some diggers down there just doing some excavation at the moment as well. It's amazing when you're actually in it, the perspective, how smaller this distance between the lock and the end of the canal actually feels.
It's not very far, is it?
No.
It's the heights as well, because when you're stood up there and you're looking down on it, you don't quite realise actually how much lower this is here.
Yeah.
Because you kind of come up the hill and into this.
Yeah.
We'll be back to look at the progress on the under construction Keith Ayling Lock later in this video. It's been a while since I've been able to walk down here, isn't it? Very different now. Thank goodness it's a lot drier than it has been over the course of this winter. I'm just trying to look back and line this up with the lock, just to see the alignment that this is going to take, look.
So once this wall is cast and backfilled, they'll then put a concrete pad in where that old stonework was, just below the towpath level, and then just build the top courses on. So yeah, this wall's all in, but they have to keep it backfilled. So yeah, this is the last bit of this wall, and then I think from that point onwards, where it's turning now, that'll then go into precast concrete units from there up to the lock. So this is all hard edge on this side. On this side it will be hard edged basically to about the end of the bushes at the moment.
Yeah.
And then it will be soft edged. Okay. We've got room for it to be soft through till basically just short of the bridge, and then the lock mooring will be on that side underneath the bridge.
So underneath us here we've got Severn Trent Water, a lot of infrastructure underneath here, and one of the conditions of this is that the Canal Trust have got to be able to drain this section of canal between the new lock and the stop lock that we'll show you up here in 30 minutes to allow Severn Trent Water to access repairs or access the mains and the sewers, etc. And that's the reason why we're going to be having the stop lock built in to Bellhouse Bridge here. And this is Bellhouse Bridge, all the foundations. Now here's the bit we've been keeping an eye on all these months. Looks a lot different now. It's got the soil up to the end of it. Look a bit more natural. And of course this is the Narrows. This is what we've been looking at being rebuilt, isn't it? Look, this brickwork. We're normally just stood over there, just gandering in. So this bit is as it's going to be then, isn't it? This side of it.
It's not far off. So that, I mean, there will be earth on it. I think the earth is up to about here-ish somewhere. So this will all get covered, and then actually this bit will get paved so that you can stand it. So you should be able to stand. I think you can stand and sort of just, I mean, by the time the earth's up here, you'll be able to stand and just look over the.
Yeah.
Just look over the water. But it's the best illustration. This is the best illustration of what issues the subsidence in this area is causing.
This is going to be later this year when this gets finished. This is going to be the most photographed bit. People stood down here, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, now you see the lock and the bridge and stuff. This is going to be the next thing that people stand in front of and take photos. Of course, just to reiterate what this is and why these walls are here. These Narrows were the entrance to an old industrial arm that left the main line of the Chesterfield Canal here. The Narrows were uncovered a few times during archaeological digs. Given their history and age, the decision was made to incorporate them into the new canal, somehow in their original, or as physically possible, location. Okay, so boats won't be passing through the actual Narrows as the old canal arm can't be accessed or restored anymore. But this preserves a piece of Staveley's canal history and industrial story. So this is the first part of the cut of the canal that's actually been dug out of this new section. Look, we're just beyond the Narrows, and this is going to be, for a while at least anyway, the end of navigation for the Chesterfield Canal, this western section. So it's given us a good representation there of the actual level of the canal and what it's actually going to be. And then the drop off down there, look. I mean, even from here, the puddle bank still looks a little bit low. Most striking thing since that visit a couple of weeks ago, we was inside there. They'd only just started kind of excavating that new small section of cutting. But as we can see from the drone today, just a few weeks later, we're now actually seeing where the canal's actually going to be going. It's actually starting to look like a canal from the air now, minus the water obviously, but the shape of the cutting is a lot more defined. So that stop lock that I mentioned as we were walking up down there, that's going right here, just this side of Bellhouse Bridge. So in a few years' time, or whenever it eventually goes in on the next phase, we're stood underneath the bridge here. From where I'm standing here, I can see right to both ends of this short section of restoration. Look, there's the end of the canal. You can see the alignment coming through the narrow of the bridge there. Just trying to link it up, trying to join the dots. So it's going to that side of the next abutment, isn't it? You can't quite see the lock, but you can see the abutments right in the distance. And then obviously just underneath the far bridge is where the existing canal ends. Always good to bump into Steve. I've had an 11-minute journey here today, Steve. How long's it taken you to get home?
Nearly 4 hours. Yeah, and I've got to go back after this as well. Wow,
that's commitment. Yeah. Worth it though to get inside here, isn't it?
It's so cool down here. What's going on? Everywhere you look, there's like another project starting, and you can see kind of further down here the canal rising and the height differences. It's incredible. The camera doesn't do it justice, does it? It's completely different.
And how different, I just cannot, I'm going to keep repeating this on this video over and over again, how different it is being on site, the different perspective from viewing from the bridge, viewing from the footpath.
We've been taking photos as we've been going along, and you're kind of on these things, and it looks naff on the photo, it just doesn't look it. But when you stood it, and these things are like 2-3 times the height of you, the camera doesn't show it at all, does it? It's so different.
Yeah.
There's some great structures coming along down here.
And it'll look even different when we're walking down this as a canal this time next year. But of course, the centrepiece for all this work is going to be the new Keith Ayling Lock. How much deeper does it look when you stood next to it?
Yeah.
Compared to when you stood up on the bridge?
Yeah.
Wow.
Does it look the right width? That's the main thing.
It's not a big fall, is it? But the thing is, you've got the height of water as well that you're not seeing.
Yeah, 1.7. So it's the same. It's the same as probably the same as Staveley Town Lock.
So this is an exciting moment for me, actually going down into this lock that I've spent all of the first half of this year, well, before Christmas, watching them build this, watching them put this together. What do you think then, Steve?
Big.
Huge, isn't it?
So shiny at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's going to change over time. It's so cool to finally build it. We spoke to me before about we've never seen a lock being built, so it's quite cool to see it at this stage now where it's kind of getting ready for gates and water and stuff. It's going to change so much again very soon.
Well, that reminds me, 11th of May, I think George said, we're looking at maybe getting the gates installed.
Yeah, very soon.
Slightly gutted because I'm still on holiday there.
Oh,
so
no.
When I come back, there'll be...
there'll be those special composite made from wind turbine blades.
Yeah.
So nice bit of recycling on here as well.
Rotterdam there being built, isn't it?
Yeah. There's none on the system. There's some on the Thames. There's none on the canal system in this country, so it's the first as well.
I really want to touch this. Bit of an echo in here. Now, I'm not good, if you've watched my videos, you'll know I'm not good at explaining the technical details for stuff like this, so I'm trying to keep it high level and observational. We see the recesses just back there for the lock gate at the front of the lock, and then we'll see the various holes and chambers for all the pumping mechanisms. Obviously, we've seen the big holes, the big bores just above us there, haven't we? We've watched them put those big pipes in, and now that's been capped. And we've seen inside the valve chamber as well. I mean, technically this lock is in water at the moment. There's about, what's that, about 2 inches of water. And obviously there's the rise. What did Josh say? It was 1.7 metres. Not got a memory for figures. First glance, not a lot of change to the lock since we was here a couple of weeks ago. We were expecting the lock gates to be delivered. I don't know if they're on site yet. Obviously I can't see into the back of the compound, but I can't see anything that resembles any lock gates on site yet. Yeah, I'd expect the lock gates to be, shall we say, noticeable in their presence down there, but you can see all those L-shaped concrete sections down there, prefabricated. And they're going to be making up the construction of the canal cutting. We're in for a little bit of a thunderstorm, couple of rumbles of thunder up there. Watching this from the outside of the fences every few weeks is one thing, but standing inside the lock itself really changes your understanding of the scale of what's happening here. And it's incredible to think that later this year, the trip boats will be travelling through this section of brand new canal. If you watch these videos regularly, you know I like to give you a little something extra, just so we're not just filming the same stuff down at Staveley in the same place. So I've jumped just over a mile west up the canal, up to Hollingwood, and I'm having a walk back towards Staveley. So if it's a nice summer's day on the canal, you fancy a pint, you fancy a drink on the canal side. Did you know there used to be not one, but 2 pubs on this section of canal between Hollingwood and Staveley? If you're familiar with the Chesterfield Canal these days, you'll know that no such pubs exist. But for this, we'll have to pull up our old friends, the National Library of Scotland maps. And for the first location of these pubs, now I'm just scouring the map and the satellite images as I'm walking along here. And for this first of these pubs, just over there. We're seeing on the maps annotated as Lee's buildings. And we can see there, PH, Public House, the Moulders Arms. Hard to find the exact spot, to be honest, but I'm looking for, there was a footbridge. We can see there's a footbridge on the old maps. I'm looking for an area where the canal narrows. And is this it here? Or is it just the reed that's, the weeds and the reeds that's playing a trick on me here? But I'm not sure if the canal does narrow slightly there, look, both sides. And is that the location of the footbridge? Now the pub was on that side of the canal. Now there was a second pub on this section of the canal. I said there was two, didn't I? I'm not sure. Now I'm gonna need people to help me out here, people who've got a little bit more local knowledge than me. I don't suppose there's anybody who remembers these pubs. I don't know when the Moulders Arms was demolished, and I don't know if these two pubs coexisted together or not. I really don't know. I'm a little bit unsure on the dates. Our next pub, the Canal Tavern, was situated roughly halfway between Hollingwood Hub and Mill Green Bridge. Now I'd love to be able to, with 100% confidence, stand in the spot and say this is where it was. The GPS on the phone's a little bit out, so it's going to have to be a little bit of a guesstimate, I'm afraid. Now that hedgerow there, on the other side of the canal, if I'm lining up the satellite images and the old historic maps correctly, it was just after here. We do have a photograph of this. Just look how crystal clear this is. Obviously, the canal's disused by the time this photograph's taken, and the pub doesn't look in the most attractive conditions, really, does it? But that's the old Canal Tavern. And we do have a newspaper cutting from 1963, I think it was, that reports that the old pub's days are numbered. So at least with this one, we can say with confidence it was demolished the early to mid 1960s. This would be it. This would be the site of the Canal Tavern pub, roughly. Did you know about these pubs? Do you walk down this section of canal? Because if I'm being honest, would you even know? You'd have no clue that anything ever existed on here. There's no signs of life on this section of canal, really, is there, other than the distant houses and the road going into Staveley up there. And that's the most striking thing, the fact that there's zero clues. The Staveley Works and the Staveley Chemical Works over this side here. There are some great records of aerial photographs on the Britain from Above website, and we can see in some of those photographs, we can see the buildings and the pub still in situ. I think they're from the 1940s, them photographs, so the pub's still open at that stage. And it wasn't just the pub. There was also a row that ran at a right angle to the canal, a row of houses, nine terraced houses. So a little community here, not just a pub, it was a community. And we can also see on those Britain from Above images, just the other side of the canal, because we had the Great Central Railway Chesterfield Loop that ran very, very close to the edge of the canal just here. Just gone up a little unofficial footpath just off the towpath. And if I check the GPS at the moment, and this land's been interfered with quite significantly over the last number of decades, it would be a nice little story, wouldn't it, just to come where I'm stood here, where those rows, that row of 9 terraced houses was. It would be a nice little story to say, look, there's some bricks or something here, or there's at least a definition of something here. But again, there's nothing, is there? Absolutely nothing. Lots of lost industry, lots of lost transport geography all around this area. It's quite a serene, and I think I've said this when we came to Mill Bridge a couple of episodes ago. It's quite a serene setting here. It feels quite rural walking down this section of canal. But just look at those old photographs. It was anything but rural down here. Such a contrast. A special thanks to George, and a special thanks to the Canal Trust, as always accommodating and welcoming. Thanks as well to Steve. Check out Steve's YouTube channel, Caught Above the Cut. So much restoration stuff to keep you going on there. It's fascinating. And thanks for watching. We'll see you on another update soon. Ta-ra!